In 1945, the Allied Army was closing in on Berlin, Germany, as the Nazi regime under Adolf Hitler was crumbling. In a peaceful prison yard, a young man was led out through the gates. He had no fear in his eyes as he faced impending death, but only his faith in God's will. His name, Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Young Dietrich Bonhoeffer was born into a wealthy and intellectual family on February 4, 1904, in Przemysl, Poland, but at the time was part of Germany. He and his twin, Sabine, were the youngest of 8 children.
When he was 18 years old, he went to Rome with his brother to visit churches there. What he saw and experienced had amazed him. He saw people from all walks of life worship together in harmony. Here, he saw the universality of the church. He was amazed at how big of an influence the church was to many different types of people. This solidified his dream of becoming a pastor.
Bonhoeffer attended the University in Berlin for a little while. Although he enjoyed campus life, he wanted to have some experience with the church. As a result, he volunteered to become an assistant pastor for a German church in Barcelona, Spain. Here, he would form new ideas for the church and witness it firsthand. Many poor people attended this church. Bonhoeffer saw that the poor used the church as a meeting place for social relations rather than a place of worship. They used it to converse, play, and eat. He also discovered this when he went to America.
Bonhoeffer was invited to study at the Union Theological Society in New York in 1931. There, he met and befriended Frank Fisher, an African-American theological student who took him to his first segregated church in the heart of Harlem. In the church, he was amazed by the singing, dancing, and foot stomping. The entire church exploded in eruptive joy. This was very different from the practical and formal churches in Germany that he was a part. He found the spirit that he was looking for within these churches. He started volunteering to teach Sunday school and to try to capture the vigor ways of African American church, and the church readily accepted him. Similar to that in Barcelona, he was distressed about poverty but was encouraged by their faith in the church and God.
He taught the kids that the church will always be there for them and showed that by being charitable. As a result, he became quite popular in the slums.
At this time, however, a man named Adolf Hitler was stirring up a storm. He was gaining power at an alarming rate. Bonhoeffer was not a fan of Hitler. He was against someone taking over Germany with absolute power. Hitler claimed that the Jews were to blame for the Germans' downfall, which Bonhoeffer denied. Many of Bonhoeffer's friends in Barcelona, America, and the slums of Berlin, and even some of his own family members were Jewish. He could not stand by and watch his friends get persecuted, so he decided to take action. During a radio broadcast, he publicly spoke out against Hitler, saying that the church members could not stand by and watch as the people were persecuted. He went on to say that Hitler had no right to seize so much power before he was cut off. The church called a meeting to discuss the recent actions of the church.
During the meeting, many people sided with Hitler, saying that he could better the church. Other people said that Hitler was dangerous, and one of those people was Bonhoeffer. He argued that the church was supposed to protect everyone, including the Jews rather than just churchgoers. He went on to say that the church was a beacon of hope for the people. He recited all the sights that he saw in Barcelona, America, and Berlin. The rich, the poor, people of all backgrounds go to the church for guidance. People like these rely on the church for hope, and only they can stop Hitler. If they do nothing, then the people will have nobody to turn to. Although moved, his pleas went unheeded. Hitler, seeing the church as a possible threat, promised to return the church to their former glory by making it the one religion of the Reich. All they had to do was swear allegiance to him. Before long, swastikas hung from the rafters in church, and Hitler gained power over the church.
He began to transform the church into his own image. This caused a split between the clergy. Some people were all for ridding the church of Jewish ideals and accepted Hitler's church. Others, like Bonhoeffer, said that it was heresy and against the will of God. Many people, however, joined Hitler's church. Bonhoeffer was outraged at the church and moved to Britain. He would not stay at the church that didn't stand up for people. He did not intend to just stand by and watch as Nazis corrupted Germany. He decided to stand up for those who can't. In London, he secretly met with powerful members of parliament who in turn spoke against Hitler's corruption. The Germans became outraged that someone went behind their backs. He created a new wing of the church called the Confessing Church. The church would speak so loudly that the whole world would have to hear it, but was disbanded as soon as the Nazis heard of it.
It became a stressful time as the Germans invaded Austria and was attacking Poland. The war in Europe had begun. Bonhoeffer became tense about the situation. Then his brother-in-law came to the rescue. He told him that he had amassed a collection of evidence against the Nazi crimes. He also told Bonhoeffer that he had a small band of conspirators within the Nazi party who was against Hitler. These people were aware of Hitler's crimes and were willing to risk their lives to overthrow them. They needed help from someone in the outside world to support this small band of conspirators. This person would be Bonhoeffer. He would be hired by the Abwehr, the German secret intelligence agency. He would be able to smuggle damaging information to other countries and try to convince them to help them. Under the guise of an agent, he had become a double agent. He went to Switzerland to meet with contacts and convince them to support their little conspiracy.
While people were horrified, they weren't convinced that a conspiracy existed. Many times, he went on secret missions, only to be sent back in despair. He helped 7 Jews escape the country by personally seeing to their escape to Switzerland by providing fake documents and money. With an astounding amount of Jews starting to disappear, Bonhoeffer noticed and documented it, adding it to the list of crimes by the Nazis. He smuggled some papers to his contacts and some friends out of the country. These papers would be the first time that anyone told the outside world about what would be known today as the Holocaust.
He found out that the Gestapo was onto the conspirators. They decided to be careful now that they had been discovered. The Gestapo tapped their phones, opened their letters, and interrogated friends. Nevertheless, he continued to be a spy and a courier. He continued to plead for help within other countries, but the Gestapo was hot on their tail. They decided to act. They attached a bomb to Hitler's plane in order to kill him, but the bomb failed to go off. A second attempt was taken on his life, but was again unsuccessful. Then the Gestapo found him.
Bonhoeffer was arrested by German SS on April 5, 1943, and taken to Tegel prison. While in prison, he helped orchestrate an assassination attempt on Hitler's life. On June 20, 1944, a member of the conspiracy, Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg, was able to plant a bomb in Hitler's heavily fortified secret base called the Wolf Lair. Though the bomb went off, Hitler was shaken but not hurt. Several of Hitler's aides were killed by the blast. Nazi officers traced the evidence back to the conspirators, and soon more members of the conspiracy were arrested, including his brother Klaus Bonhoeffer and his brother-in-law Hans von Doino. He stayed there for 2 years until he moved to Flossenburg, where he knew he would meet his end. On a warm spring day, Bonhoeffer was let out, where he was executed on April 9, 1945.
He had a profound effect on theology as a whole. He inspired people to stand up for what was right, even to those who did not believe in religion. He had revolutionary ideas for someone such as young as him. Although it may be too early to fully examine his impact upon history, he touched people's hearts and inspired them to believe in themselves and stand up for what they believe is right, even it may seem impossible. Bonhoeffer stood up and paid the ultimate price for it. However, he changed and saved many people's lives as a whole. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the pacifist priest, was able to stand up to Hitler without denying his religion.